Welcome to Hashtag Trending on the Weekend. This is Project Synapse. You can join us mid-conversation where our panel, Marcel Gagné, John Pinard, and I are talking about the concept of a company of one. This book that I'm working on called A Company of One, and it was the essence of how you could essentially have a company of one. And whether that's the ultimate, the idea is we should be aiming towards a fully automated, or looking at the fact that we could be competing with companies of one. I came up with a concept of how would we have an impact with business, and I called it a business sculptor, stealing from Sawyer, like his personality sculptor. And because I thought you needed something that wasn't a consultant. You needed something or someone who could really be part therapist, part technical advisor, and part artist.
But isn't that really what ChatGPT and some of those frontier models are? They're part therapist, part advisor, part everything else.
But someone needs to facilitate how that gets introduced into companies, because people will not do it on their own. Some will do it on their own. But for the most part, people are going to be prisoners. I call it prisoners of how. We start out every IT project, doesn't matter what it is, with tell me what you want, whiteboard it, take the blinders off, like whatever you want and can envision, let's talk about that. And then we start to build it and we go, well, shit, we can't really do that and can't really do that, but we can sort of do this. And then you get halfway down the pipe and you realize you're running out of money and you go, well, let's cut out the nice to haves and put it through. And that's what organizations are like. Think of when you do the interview that you have with a company. First time you meet a company, oh, our president has an incredible vision and we are dedicated to making sure that we've got this, that, and the other thing. And you go, wow, I'm here. And then you go to your first meeting and you get knocked down by somebody who goes, ooh, and when you come up with an idea that is in keeping with that vision. And then they lean over you and say, now you're going to find out how it really is. Right?
Yeah.
And what we become is prisoners of how. We lose the vision and we start to think about the way things are and how they have to be. Because you have to have this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And the reality is, I don't think you start embracing AI until you actually sit back and say, screw it, I don't have to do anything. I'm going to sit down and do the ridiculous thing, talking to this machine. I'm going to say, why do I need something? Why do I really need an accounting department? And I don't exist to do accounting. I exist to do podcasts. And we lose what we exist to do.
What the primary purpose
and we
is.
start becoming servants of, well, we have to have this, we have to have that, and we have to have this. Anyway, that's the prisoner how that I'm.
Yeah, in the end, one of my other obsessions other than AI is Reddit. It's my social media kryptonite. I don't pay a lot of attention to Facebook. I don't pay any attention to Blue Sky or Twitter or Threads, but I do spend time on Reddit. God help me.
Well, yeah,
the gods I don't believe in, please help me. Yes, exactly.
Reddit is the cage match of social media, right? Well, it is. You know, you're an amateur. Like these people on Facebook are amateurs compared with people on Reddit.
Amateurs. You've seen the meme where there's a couple of guys talking about all the cool, like it's just a black and white cartoon 4-panel. And then there's this creature that's slumped over a keyboard with a cowl over its head, you know, like this. And they're sitting there talking about all the cool stuff that they've done. And of course, there's 100 memes on this thing at the moment. But it's like somebody says, I did this, or yeah, well, I did this. Well, then I did, and they one up each other. And finally, the creature at the keyboard or the person at the keyboard turns around and stares them down with a scowl and says, amateurs.
That's Reddit.
Anyway, on Reddit, there was a post, and I should have bookmarked this thing, but there's a person who apparently has spent the last 8 months creating agents for like 25 different positions in their company. And they are effectively running the entire business as one person, and they have been for 8 months now, according to the write-up. The guy actually has a GitHub page where all of the agents that he's created, like the marketing manager, the accountant, the this, the that, he's got all of these 25 positions that he has working for him who are all AI agents. And I'll try to look it up. I'll try to find it. But I thought it was interesting because he actually went to the trouble of deciding what all of the positions that he would ideally need to run his company and then created them all. So
invite him on the show.
Interesting. Well, you gotta play notes first.
Okay. Exactly what I think is happening out there is that there are these people who are creating all of this stuff. And
again, one of the big names, maybe it was Jensen Huang. Anyway, one of these big Super 7 CEOs was interviewed a couple of 3 weeks ago and said something about the idea that the first single person billion-dollar company is already being created out there right now.
Jensen Huang.
Is it Jensen?
He mentioned this in an article. I first read about this, I think about at least 2 months ago. That's where it hit me.
So it's more than 3 weeks. It's 2 months now, yes.
Well, no, but he's probably resurfaced with it. I read this story about the idea of a company of one, and it came, I think, from Jensen Huang. And it seemed insane and interesting at the same time. And then I thought, I'm a company of one.
The problem for so many of us, and well, first of all, some of us have so many things on the go at any given moment that the idea of actually focusing on the creation of this company of one is going to be exceedingly difficult. I'm not saying impossible, but it requires some amount of focus. It's like all of the people who say, well, there's no artistry in creating video clips for AI video clips and so forth. No, you still say, I want the camera to move this way. I want this to happen. Yes, it's possible to just create something, but the more interesting stuff involves thinking it through, thinking about what your vision is, how you want these things set up, what you want to have happen, even if it's only for a few minutes to think about that. The company of one is the same thing. It requires a lot of, obviously you have to bring the tools together, but the tools arguably are already out there, like the dude with his 25 employees, agent employees. The tools are arguably already out there, but you have to bring them in. You have to define, and this is one of your bailiwicks, both Jim and John, because you guys are more business people than I am. I'm the thinker. I'm an analyst. I like to think that both of you have more focus than I do, okay? So I'm actually complimenting you here. You people have focus.
The interesting thing is that this is really just creating a business of one utilizing AI. Instead of going out and interviewing and recruiting actual people, you have to actually go and recruit AI for the individual roles. And Marcel, the gentleman you were talking about, that's essentially what he's done, is he's created those positions and built AI agents to fill those positions instead of filling them with a human being. And that's the only way you could possibly do this to create a business of one, is you still have to have those roles. Like Jim, you still have to pay your invoices. Instead of having an AP clerk, you have an AP agent.
Exactly. But you said it right. You create the position. This is what I'm getting at. Two things you guys have said that go back to what I've been talking about. One is, what is the purpose of your organization?
Yeah.
And because we spend all kinds of time arguing about, should AI do this? If AI does this, what's the purpose of your organization? Is it to delight people? Is it to deliver this? Is it to create music? How you do that is not the relevant point. What you do is there. And this goes back to my early days. I started out as an entertainer. Like I was an actor, a musician, a comedian. When you get on stage, you have one thing and one thing only, the audience, and that's it. Nothing else matters. If you fall down, if you feel a heart attack coming on, you still have the audience.
You add it into the show.
Yeah, and that's it. And, and it's like this whole thing of you cannot blame the audience for not laughing. And that creates a reality. When I got into business, I thought people actually believe this shit. I'm sorry, but I thought, no, when they did the interview and they said, oh, we've got a positive work environment and we'll look at advancement and all that sort of, the first, and this is going to start the book probably, but I had a business case thrown at me by a CFO. Richard, you're out there. I know you. I'll still call you out for it. He threw a business case at me and said, I'm the effing CFO, and if I effing well want this, then damn it, I'm going to get it. Because I had the temerity to follow his instructions. And that was my job, was to review business cases objectively and present whether or not we should proceed as a recommendation to the steering committee. And I did that objectively. I called balls and strikes. I was learning because up until then, I'd been just an IT guy in a group of guys and we were all guys, but we just got shit done. If paper needed changing on the printer, you went and changed the friggin' paper on the printer. We had no structure. We just got shit done. And we created stuff that ran a nationwide company. And I learned everything from those guys. But, so I'm in the structure and I go, well, oops, I didn't realize that I was supposed to ignore the rules for you. That's what I mean about the how. We get into the how of this and we lose track of the purpose. And that's what I think is missing. And that's why, like I said, I have no argument with what Marcel does on music. My purpose in music is to have a contact with a person and a musician and share a story. That's my purpose. So the how of it is I play my frickin' guitar and with my band. Marcel's purpose with music is to make you laugh or to give you a little jolt. And he does that with AI.
Yeah, that's his instrument.
Well, no, I mean, technically speaking, I actually do own a few guitars, okay? Just for the record, I want to make that clear. And so just to dovetail that a little tiny bit, Jim, when I was a disc jockey at a top 40 station so many years ago, one of the things I did was I would go through and I would select the music that I was going to play before the show. So half an hour before the show, you go, this is back, we're talking 45 RPMs, 33 RPMs. Anyway, I would go back and I would sort through, and obviously we had a playlist to push certain songs that were popular at the time. But otherwise, you had about half of the show were things that you could select for yourself that you wanted to play. So I would go and pick all those things out. In essence, I was making music, so to speak, for a lot of people, but I wasn't making any of it. I was just playing it. I'm taking these things that other people have recorded, I'm putting them on a turntable, and I'm playing it. Now, arguably, I could say that what I was doing, I was part of a machine that promoted these artists and helped sell the records and so forth. So in that respect, I suppose I was performing a service, but really I was just sitting there having fun, playing music, talking to people that I couldn't see. And that was it. I suppose I would argue today that I'm still sort of doing that. I do stuff that amuses me and I share it out there, and some people appreciate it and some don't. To be honest, there are times that I'm scared to death of putting stuff out there because, as you know, Jim, I have a lot of friends who are in the business of publishing and creating art, and they don't really appreciate my course.
And when they turn up on in your driveway with torches, you wait a minute, this went too far.
Marcel moved. He's like 3 houses down.
But maybe, and the DJ example is maybe a better example. But I'm just saying that what's the purpose? And that's what I think roots you in what you're going to do. And when you got that, then you start to say, why are we doing this? I went through the same thing in university. There are all kinds of roles that are absolutely, boy, and now I'm partly in that community, and I could get pilloried for this, but it's the truth, that are just useless. We in current universities, it takes 4 years to develop a course or thereabouts. So we're going to do a course in generative AI. Right now, I'll give us 6 months heads. We started it 6 months ago. By the time we get the approvals and get that course in place, we will be at AGI.
It's outdated.
Or we'll be at ASI. We'll be at super intelligence. That's how slowly things move in academia. When you were in the 1600s, and all of your textbooks were written out by hand, or on that new Gutenberg press that took you 6 months to produce, to get everything up and produce this, that worked. But it's gotten a little out of date because we lost sense of the purpose. What is the purpose of a university?
Well, different people are going to have different answers, but most people, I would argue, now, at one time, the idea was the spread of ideas, to explore concepts, to discuss things, to foster knowledge, whatever that knowledge, I mean, even if that knowledge was arcane or religiously based, there was some purpose in driving that forward. For the last century and a half, I would argue that most education is built around the concept of producing people who are trained for specific jobs so you can stick them into the machine and continue moving the machinery of capitalism forward. Like, I would argue that that's the whole purpose of education, or has been. It's not what I believe that the purpose of a university should be, but that has largely been the driving factor. And not just university, high school, elementary school. Hell, a few years ago, people were trying to teach kids how to use Microsoft Word. Like, I'm talking 20, 25 years ago or something like that. Like, that was going to be a job that somebody was going to be doing when they grew up. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, and rightly or wrongly, that's part of the dilemma of universities. What they pretend to be is places that are full of discourse and ideas and all of that.
Accurate.
And in reality, most of them are set up to socialize kids and teach them enough basic skills so that they can fulfill a job in the industrial complex that we run now. And woefully not preparing them for what is coming. And that's been coming for some time. I always tell the story of when I got into IT, I didn't know anything about IT. I was a musician. Like, I learned everything from people, showed me stuff and said, oh, this is what code is, man, or this is what this is, or press these buttons, or try this. That's how I learned everything. And then I thought, well, geez, I'm not on my way to
on-the-job training.
Well, I figured I should go get a degree in IT.
There's nothing wrong with on-the-job training, just to be clear, Joe.
No, there's not. Absolutely not. Especially in industries like IT. I went to school, I learned how to program, but when I started working full-time, we were using a different programming language than what I had been taught at school.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got kids that are sitting at home who are programming games in Roblox. In essence, they've already done the training. I mean, you could conceivably hire them in your department to do those things. Jim, notice, by the way, I just want to point out that we actually had a topic set up, and this is not what we're talking about, which is typical.
We are going to shift into that topic because I do want to cover, cover those.
Your suggestion of the company of one belies one of the things that people are most worried about, which is the idea that you're going to create enterprises that make a single person rich, conceivably rich, and that nobody else is going to be able to partake in that pot of money. But the billionaire, the single person company billionaire that is apparently coming up through the ranks that Jensen Huang is talking about and that you're writing a book about, isn't doing anything to share the wealth with a whole bunch of other people. They're making themselves wealthy. And this is what a lot of people are worried about. This thing is coming in and it's doing all the jobs that we're doing right now, and I'm getting nothing out of it. And I appreciate that.
Okay. Let me go back to my university example. Why are universities screwed up? Because they're pretending to be areas of discourse when they're really socializing factories, for the most part. If when you say you're something and you're really something else, you end up in real problems. You don't address the issues. And that's what I love about the company of one, because I believe we should start saying it. Will it be a company of one? I don't know, but it's not going to be a company of 8,000 anymore. That's happening right now. Amazon is walking through its HR department. They're going to take 15% of it out in the next 6 weeks. And we need to start calling it for what it is, because the issue of how we distribute income is not my problem. That's not my problem. That's a social problem. We better recognize and start solving. So the sooner we start talking about a company of one, the better off we are, because you can look at it from two aspects. What is that Protestant work ethic aspect that was part of what socialized us to work in these cubicles so that we would be obedient workers? And we would do the job.
Cogs in the machine.
You were stoking the Star Maker machinery behind the popular song when you were a DJ. But we do the things, but let's admit it. And now we might ask ourselves, wait a minute, is that what life's about? Because I'm still reading this BS from Silicon Valley, but you got to work 80 hours a week and you got to do all this sort of stuff. Well, what the hell is the point of having all this shit if people can't enjoy the world? So now we got to look at it and say, wait a minute, there may be a whole pile of people who aren't necessary. So should we really spend the most precious thing we have, which is hours of human life, doing stuff that doesn't need to get done, just purely because we can't figure out how to pay people?
Yeah, but shout out to David Graeber, who wrote the book Bullshit Jobs back in 2018, where he came to the conclusion, or after talking to enough people, that a huge swathe of people believes that their jobs are bullshit, that if they stopped doing their jobs, it would have no impact on the company tomorrow. I agree to your point, Jim, in the sense that this fits in with a whole bunch of these other things. Like, for instance, you've got all these people that are posting, they're calling it the dead internet theory. But in reality, a lot of what you see out there, which is AI generated stuff, is generated by a person. Yes, there are bot farms out there, but there's a lot of stuff that is people making stuff because they are entertained by it. And oddly enough, a lot of other people are entertained by looking at it or looking through it or responding to it or something like that. So the argument, of course, of no, we don't want this is, as you say, a societal problem. In other words, it's like, yes, people are making this stuff that isn't making anyone else any money, but the fix for that is not to just stop doing this stuff, because obviously people want this stuff. It's like you can argue, in fact, when Sora 2 came out, one of the articles that I read, like basically that day, said in these words, nobody wanted this. Okay, nobody wanted this. And 1 million people had signed up by the end of the week, but nobody wanted it. One of my soapbox items is universal basic income. We need to have something that supports people while we're going through this transition, because it is a transition and it's going to happen a lot faster than most people think. John, you look like you're going to say something there.
No, and kind of tied in with the transition piece, you see all kinds of, you talked about Facebook and things. The Sora 2 has just exploded all over Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. And yeah, it's kind of cute to look at and things. Do I think that that's of great value? In my opinion, no. Do I think there is great value to Sora 2 and other tools like that? Absolutely. Do I think we'll get to that point where they are used for a lot more? Right now, it's 8-second, 10-second videos.
15 as of today. 15 seconds. So if you're on the Pro plan, 25 seconds.
Okay. And I always remember the Coke commercial at Christmas time with the polar bears and things like that. I think the one this past Christmas was done with AI. But
it was.
I can see Sora 2 and other tools like that becoming the tool of choice for doing those types of commercials. And I think we'll get there, but it's going to take a little bit of farting around and people playing with things to get us to that point. It's that transition that we have to be able to survive through.
Remember, a lot of TV commercials are 15 seconds and 30 seconds,
True.
Right? So if you have the vision of what you're trying to display or what you're trying to show off, or the product that you're trying to sell for that matter, you can have Jim's company of one, a creative consultancy that makes these things using these tools now. Not saying it's perfect, not saying you're not going to go through a lot of iterations, not saying you're not going to have to spend the $200 a month to be able to generate stuff that,
a company of one, $200 a month doesn't make any difference.
Think about what you just said. $200 a month for a commercial. When I was a performer, which is 100 years ago, a commercial could cost you $80,000 to $100,000 to produce, and then residuals for the performers after that going forward, which were in the tens of thousands of dollars, I'm sure. And we're going, Jesus, I'd have to spend $200 a month to get a 15-second commercial.
You know what? While we're talking, I should open up another window and I should generate a 15-second ad for Project Synapse.
I think you should, because this happened last week, I think, was the explosion of video. And I think it wasn't just, I didn't know Grok had something in, now Grok's got a 6-second video. out there.
And it's
that
very fast. Like,
Yeah.
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 It
As
generates,
much as-
you should check it. And by the way, you can actually do it free. Like, you don't actually have to pay for a Grok account to experiment with this. So
I use Grok for a lot of my creative.
don't say that out loud. He might be listening.
It's okay. I'm buying your internet, for God's sakes, But Grok has already forced OpenAI's hand. So OpenAI came in with Sora 2, blew the world away, 1 million the first week. 1 million users. While it was under invite, wasn't even open to the public yet, and it smoked what they'd done with ChatGPT. So for those people who say it's like that Yogi Berra line, nobody comes here, it's too crowded. Get over it. Whether you agree with it or not, get over it. People loved this. And as I looked at it, it looked like TikTok.
Yeah.
Only, so that happened. Now Sora 2 is out there, and we find out that nobody's that far behind. It's your leapfrog idea, John, right? Is Grok comes out, and they've got a 6-second video. Now, do you remember Vine? Vine was really a creative idea. I still remember somebody came back to me and said, who's going to watch a 10-second video? Well, I'll put you down as not the guy who invented TikTok. But no, that's what everybody say. Who's going to watch that stuff? Vine died on the vine, pun intended. But why did it die? They couldn't monetize it. It was too damned expensive. Couldn't find a way around it. Now, Elon owns Twitter. They killed Vine before Elon came along. It might be coming back. Because, hey, Sam Altman's trying to start a social media thing with video. Elon Musk goes, wait a minute, don't I own one?
Exactly.
I wonder too, though, I mean, you talked, Jim, earlier about the how in your book, and it's a lot of this to me feels like these businesses like Sam Altman and Elon Musk and Meta and all these other companies are building the tools, and then they're coming out going, so what can we do with it? It feels a little bit like they don't have the purpose set out when they build the tool. Yeah, agreed.
When they invented stuff in the old days, they invented it for the wrong reason.
Yep.
Like, I'm sure that Alexander Graham Bell never thought, you know something? I can't wait for 2/3 off long distance every Saturday. Right?
Yeah.
It was, Jesus, get in here. I dropped something in my lap. I don't know why he called Watson. He might have liked Watson. You never know.
Yeah.
Watson, we'll never know how that call went. It could have been, Watson, come in here. I need you. Or it could have been, Watson, come in here. I need you. And there's nothing wrong with either one.
And what I'm getting at, though, is they didn't build OpenAI and Grok and all these others with a specific purpose, right? As to, we need to develop something that's going to do this. It really makes me, I'm very intrigued to see where this is going to land down the road. What are things going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, when people start going, hey, I can use this tool to do this, and just blow people away with some of the things that they come up with.
I'll take back part of that. And I think you want to jump in, Marcel. But let me take back part of that. It just depends on which season of Star Trek or which version of Star Trek you watch. But I mean, there's a roadmap for this. It's called science fiction.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it gets perverted by the fact that they're really interested in making big money now this is a perfect thing. I think when Altman and the guys got together and they all looked at this stuff, this was heavily cool. And they were going to do this marvelous thing. And Elio was there and they're all looking at this, going, oh my God, we did this. And then all of a sudden you start serving the machine. And Sam Altman is the one who rises to the top because he's the guy who can get the money. And Elio's nowhere to be found. And most of the people who set out, what were they doing? They were setting out to build a future. And probably in their mind had medicinal things that it could do, the great things it could do when we could harness this intelligence. And then it got corrupted is the right word, I think, but it got turned into something that needs the money to generate the data centers, to generate the scale, to keep itself going. And now we're in the prisoner of how. All we can think about is making it bigger, faster, beating the Chinese. That's the purpose now.
Yeah, the original idea, you're right. I mean, the original idea is not necessarily what its purpose is today, from the perspective of business or, making money or whatever. But the concept of an artificial intelligence goes back arguably to the Iliad, where, the gods had automata who walked around like these gleaming metal things that walked around and were serving the gods. I mean, it goes back a long, long way. And then, of course, we get into the Second World War, where the Allies are losing because of the U-boats attacking all their ships. This is a really bad time in the war. And, along comes Benchley Park and Alan Turing and the gang, and they developed a machine that could crack the Enigma code, which was what made it impossible to track all these U-boats all over the place. And that basically ended the war in the oceans, because all these U-boats started surfacing because we knew where they were, or the Allies knew where they were all the time. So the idea of building a machine that can think faster than a human being goes back a long, long way. And the idea originally isn't to make money. Now, Jim, you're right. I mean, science fiction has pushed a lot of these concepts. I'm going to fast forward to the future here, but 25 years ago or so, I read a book called Future Perfect. That's the title of the book, Future Perfect. How Star Trek Created the Future. And it talks about all these things that are common in today's world. That like back then, of course, the flip phone was a thing. I mean, I had a Nokia flip phone, and every time I opened it, I went, like this, like it was a communicator. You did. And the reason it looked like that was because the engineers who built it, who designed it, were fans of Star Trek, and they wanted to create Star Trek. The computer that talks back to you, that sort of thing. I mean, that's been a thing for, obviously going back to Alan Turing at this point, but they're staples of science fiction. And one of the coolest things about 2001: A Space Odyssey was, remember, in the old Star Trek, computer working, analyzed all vectors, and you've got this voice. And then 2001: A Space Odyssey comes down, and it's like,
I can't.
What is it that
do
you're?
that,
What is it
Dave.
that you're? Well, yes, but also, Dave, that's a very interesting drawing. What is it that you're drawing? And like having this conversation, this casual conversation with something that sounds like another human being. So we've been working toward this, not necessarily with the intention of creating a world-ending super intelligence or whatever, but with the promise that this thing would free us at some point from the drudgery of, what's keeping us from, to use your point, Jim, living those few hours, those few years that are your life, the way that you want to do it, without having to clock in every morning and do this thing that tires you out so much. The only thing you can do when you come home is crack open something and sit down and watch TV. Like, we're trying to get that back, and we may not be succeeding at the moment, but the vision and the trajectory is clearly artificial general intelligence, and possibly beyond that, whatever a super intelligence have, the singularity. I know you were reading this as well, Jim, and of course I was reading it as well. If anyone builds it, we all die. I reject. I mean, I think I'm in the last 40 minutes of the audiobook at this point. I'm at the end of it, and they've already spun the nightmare scenario, and of course I'm just not buying it.
It's next on my reading list.
Yeah, but the point is, I'm not going to spoil it because, of course, the whole scenario takes like 2.5 chapters.
How can you spoil a book whose title is "If They Build It, We All Die"? This is like going to the Titanic and expecting a different ending. The first part of the book is "If we build it." The second part of the book is "We all die." There's
Now
no
I don't
surprise.
have to read.
The point isn't getting it's
The journey. It's
guys like you never go to wrestling. You always knew the person who was going to win for the stuff.
guys like me never go to wrestling, period.
You mean wrestling is not real?
It has nothing to do with the ending. I never go to wrestling. I never watched wrestling.
Oh, geez, I did as a kid.
I watched Star Trek as a kid. That's what I did. I also watched The Galloping Gourmet. That was like the first English show I ever saw. We moved to Ontario, turned on the television, and there's this madman cooking, The Galloping Gourmet, and that was my first introduction to English-speaking television.
Oh, God. I used to watch that. Garlic, more wine. I cook with wine, and sometimes I even put it in the food.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about if they build it, we all die.
So read it. I have another book that you should probably read, which is the one that I'm listening. I'm doing it as an audiobook, but I'm listening to it now. It's this thing called Alyssa, Tale of Quantum Kisses.
I already listened to that one. I'm done with that. I've moved on.
I'm over it.
But you want to know the ending? I can tell you the ending.
We all die?
Surprisingly few people die in this story. Like, they're really a lot of death. Jim, you needed more death.
Sorry, Jim. I thought I'd throw that plug in for you. So
much appreciated. Yeah, it's actually, it's selling well, and particularly as an audiobook. I'm so glad I did the audiobook because it really.
So am I.
Yeah, thanks. But it really does make a difference in terms of sales. The audiobook is outselling the print book like 10-1.
A lot of people listen in the car or listen while they're doing laundry or whatever. I confess that I still read a ridiculous amount, but I listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. I have read many, many books from this just because I have this Audible subscription. And even not taking into consideration the Audible stuff, I also have Libby, which is an app that lets you borrow a book from your local library, including audiobooks. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks through Libby as well. So audiobooks, man, I'm all over it.
Yeah. I mean, with what I do, I have no idea how much I read every day. But in order to come up with 3 stories, I must read 20 or 30 easily, and sometimes more. By the time the day is out, my eyes are tired. I still love to read, but I can't sit and listen to an audiobook. But I can listen to them when I'm doing other stuff that I got to get done.
Yeah, I agree with you on that as well. If I'm just sitting there, that's not what I'll be doing. I'll be doing something that I can actually be engaged in with my fingers or, with whatever. An actual paper book. Yes, exactly. I just want to jump back into the video thing a little bit. This week, what happened as well is Google followed up Sora 2. Like Sora 2 isn't sitting on its laurels because they went from the 8-second video to a 15-second video to, again, what I said. Now, I don't have a pro subscription, but if you have a pro subscription, you can create 25-second long clips. And its ability to follow direction is amazing. I created my own little GPT, as they used to call them, where I describe what it is that I want, and it actually does all the scene generation for me, including this character walks onto the stage, that happens, and so on. So I've been taking advantage of that to transform my ideas into something that's, a little bit more visual with the help of ChatGPT. Although, Sam, you bastard, you still have not released the Android app, and I'm not happy about that. Anyway, but VO 3.1, which is an update on VO 3.0, what it's got going for it is the visuals are a little bit brighter, they're a little bit crisper. I don't know that it's such a huge upgrade that it makes Sora 2 look bad, because Sora 2 still does some amazing stuff. But all of these things, somebody asked me about this in the last week, asked me about FreePick or something like this, FreePick or OpenArt. There are services out there like Hacefield, OpenArt, FreePick, or 3 of them, which are kind of a clearinghouse, for lack of a better word. But they have like storyboarding tools and so forth, to help you in the process of creating something. But they will often have the API access to things like Sora and VO3 and Hailuo and all the other players out there, Kling AI and so on. So those are, if you want to focus on that area, one of those sites would probably be a good place. One of my favorites, HeyGen. I'm a big fan of HeyGen. I've generated both of you in HeyGen, right? HeyGen now includes Sora 2 and VEO 3.1 for generating your avatar videos, including stuff like UGC, user-generated content, ads. Like I could take Jim and I could give him the can of kombucha that I've got here, and then I could have him drinking from this can, and it would be incorporated into a user-generated video. So there's some very, very cool things happening there, and they're continuing to happen. But I think what we're doing is we're moving toward this place where it's not just like a single tiny little prompt. It actually now is starting to look like something where you can create a vision, possibly even at some point like a full, a short movie or something like this. using these tools by, oh, and that's another thing too. VO 3.1 and Sora 2 both have timeline editors now where you can stitch content together. VO 3.1 added first and last frame so that you can generate a frame, like using something that will, like a nano banana that will generate consistent characters. You generate the first frame, you generate the last frame. This is what I want it to look like at the end. And it will create the video that joins those two frames together. And finally, last push there before I let somebody else jump in. Google Drive, okay, has sheets like sheets and docs and stuff like that. But what I discovered just this last week, and it bums me out that I've only just discovered this exists. If you type vids.google.com, you go into a video generation tool that is built in Google Drive. This thing actually already exists, and I didn't even know it exists. And Jim, you'll find this fascinating because like you, I have a subscription to Descript. And it actually, if you have the Google AI plan, so if you have the Google Drive, like a 2 terabyte thing with the AI plan, it includes VEO 3.1, a full timeline editor for creating videos. You can record your screen, you can record your camera in screen, just like you would with any of these other tools. This is the part where it gets cool, Jim. It will do a transcript of what you recorded, and then you can highlight a chunk of text, delete it, and it will remove it from the video, just like Descript does.
Just a couple things to backtrack on this, because I want to go back over this, because we did promise that we would discuss video. So a couple things happened. One was Sora 2 coming out and then exploding, but then getting the reaction that it got about copyright and all that sort of stuff. Now, I can't do anything in it. I tried to produce I wanted to start the show with the three of us in the transporter from Star Trek. Can't do that because it can't use any copyrighted.
You can't use a realistic human image as a starting point.
You can't load up humans in there because I really wanted to make me Captain Kirk. I was going to make you Spock, Marcel, and John, you were going to be Snotty, which is a promotion because if you notice the last time I did this, you were the guy in the red shirt. But these little, I just get tired of doing I've got the picture of the three of us that I use all the time. And then every once in a while, I just like to have some fun. So I thought, well, I'll do the couldn't do anything on it, but I can do porn because.
Please don't do that, Jim.
And this is, no, Grok came out and said, well, we're going to, I don't know whether you call it, I think you have to call it softcore porn, but Grok will do softcore porn type things. And Elon Musk got slapped around on, because he put this picture of an angel who was sort of erotic that he created using Grok. And then Sam Altman said, I could do that too. So this is going to get weird at this point, because I think we've gone into something we've only talked about, and it usually was on the periphery of these things. Like you could have these relationships with your character in an AI, but those were more or less little niche places around. Now, with the video and with the fact that they're going to start to allow a little more risque nature to your conversations, I think we've, how much of the internet is porn? Like 50% of it? I don't know. It's a huge industry and it drives a lot of internet traffic. We might just be watching the tipping point of that with AI. Something people need to be aware of or need to think about. It's going to happen out there.
Well, there's been stories for years about fake porn videos with actresses and things like that. If you can do this type of thing with AI, it's just going to make that capability that much more prevalent. But yeah, it's just going to get worse.
Well, I think they'll do some protection of actresses and things like that. I think they'll build some of those controls in because those are copyrighted. What I'm getting at.
It depends on the service. Some of them just don't give a damn.
But Marcel, when you were talking about that you can't use real faces and things like that in video, so are you saying that if I wanted to create a video of me doing something, that I can't do that either?
That's right. If you can't upload a picture in Sora, and I want to be clear here, this is in Sora, you can't upload a picture of a realistic looking human. So no, you can't you can't upload a picture of yourself or a picture of a family member or whatever and create a video around it. What you can do, which I know you haven't done because I haven't seen you on there, is create what's called your cameo. Okay.
Yes.
So you agree to effectively deep fake yourself.
Yep.
And that's the way that I've been explaining it to people. You deep fake yourself and you give people the permission to create videos with you in it. And in fact, Jim, if you want to really, abuse me, in that faction, I have made my cameo public. So you can go into Sora 2 and create a video with me in it. Like, I will see the video. And of course, if I really don't like it, I can nix it. Anybody could use my likeness in a video at this moment on Sora 2.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like anybody, I figure they'll make me better looking no matter what happens.
So Marcel, when you did that video a few weeks ago on our show, when you had the three of us standing on Toronto Island,
that was several weeks ago. Yeah.
You took a picture it was a screenshot of the three of us, and it allowed you to create a video from that. How is that different?
That's different because of the service that I used. And what I used there was the Nano Banana with, the Google image generator. And I didn't create a video there. I just created, put these three people on the island. And that's because they don't have restrictions in place against using, realistic realistic people. So you have to use the service that will let you get away with it, as opposed to saying you just can't do that. No, Sora doesn't let you do that for making videos, but that doesn't mean that other sites don't.
That was a big snapback because they put it out there and the reaction was incredible about real people and things like that. Altman got big reactions from Hollywood. And I think they were looking at copyright suits again, which is why I think they went to the softcore porn, allowing you to do more risque videos. They want a lot of people. I haven't figured this out yet. I know that Altman wants world domination. He wants as many people on OpenAI as possible. And they're going to keep doing that no matter what it costs. But I believe what they've got up their sleeve is something like an idea of taking over Windows, like being the next Apple. And I think so having all of those eyeballs pointed at them when they produce whatever they produce as your next personal computing device, and personal computing world is there. I think that's what they're aiming for, and I think that's what they're doing.
Well, I believe that they are creating an operating system. I'm increasingly of that opinion that it's not Windows that you're running, it's not Linux that you're running, other than maybe that's what brings up the browser. But the operating system through which you see and interact with the world is the chat. And however they think they're going to do that, I think that's what they're experimenting with. I'm going to send you over right now, just for fun, to answer a couple of questions about the Star Trek uniforms. Go over to the Discord server, the Project Synapse Discord server, where I posted the video of the orc applying for a position at an office. I also just did one of the three of us in Star Trek uniforms beaming in.
Well, what did you do this with it?
I did this with Grok, with the new Grok.
Okay, yeah.
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but, all I did was I just did a screenshot of the three of us talking right now. And I said, put the guy on the left in a red uniform because you'd be engineering. Put me in the blue uniform for sciences, and put Jim in the yellow uniform for command. And then put us on a transporter platform. Hey, I think it was actually very kind to us.
This is definitely slimming. But and you did that with Grok.
I just did that with Grok, and the whole thing.
Great.
And seriously, it took less than a minute. It took about 40 seconds to generate the entire video. With sound, it's got sound as well.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, through the magic of time travel, I've put this at the front of the video.
Very cool.
See it in our opening.
As we are beaming into the show.
So I want to go back. I just want to finish off on this idea of the video, because I think there was the other piece that came up in this, and I think we've ignored Google again. And I think that's a mistake. VO3 is real. I know that Sora is great and it looks good and all that stuff. VO3 for space, for the idea of shadows, for the perfection of that picture. I watched one demo going through VO3, and as the person was walking through and pointing out how the shadows change at the exact time. It's really convincing, and it has a sense of the world. This is a real video. It's just astonishing what they've done. And once again, it seems like we're finding the characters of these companies. Grok out there, to hell with the rules. Sam Altman trying to walk that mainstream line, grab as many people as you can, stay out there, stay in the news. Google sitting back going, we're going to perfect this. And we're silently working to integrate it. I've got a new respect for what they're doing in this, because they not only came up with VO3, and they've got an announcement next week. I'm waiting.
That'll be Gemini 3.0. That'll be Gemini 3.0.
But what they're actually going to announce beyond this, because these guys always put stuff out, like before Altman's big dev day, Sora 2 was out there. Before their release of whatever to be the next version of Gemini, they've got VO3, which is, just like I said, astonishing in terms of, if you're a film buff, you take a look at what they've done. It's really quite astonishing. Then they added video to Notebook LM.
Yeah.
And, just, oh, by the way, we'll put video on Notebook LM. And what's the third thing they did? There was another piece that they put in where they put more video in something. And it's just, so their integration of video with their tools seems to be going forward, which is kind of interesting. But I think they're going after something different. And I think everybody's sort of got their own way of pursuing this now.
As a writer, this kind of offends me a little tiny. No, offend is the wrong word here. Although I have many writer friends who are offended. But the fact of the matter is, people are more likely nowadays, to want to either listen to something or, which is why podcasts are exploding. I mean, podcasts are a huge monster business, right? So people are more likely to do that than read, but they're also more likely to watch a video than read. Even if it is ephemeral, even if it's something I watch, like it's not like a TV series, where you've got like the DVDs in the old days, on a shelf somewhere, you take them out and you rewatch the series or something like that. It's not meant to be that, or at least that's not what it is. It's just somebody doing something in the moment, sharing this funny thing in the moment, and then moving on with something else. I don't think there's any illusion of permanence in some of these things. And you said, OpenAI is introducing erotic chat. They're going to allow that for adult users. Part of that has to do with the fact that they are putting in a system where there's going to be age verification on this stuff. They're being pressured by a lot of places to do age verification. Grok already had spicy chat. Grok will take you there like in a heartbeat. I mean, you can start a conversation with one of their AIs, and the next thing, you two are getting it on in the back room somewhere. And they have a wife.
How would you know this, Marcel?
I know everything. I am tuned into the world mind. And if you are willing to pay for it, which I'm not paying for, just for the record, if you pay for the $20 a month, the $30 a month plan, they actually have this waifu mode. You know what waifus are, right? As in an idealized young wife character in an anime style. There's actually a male version called husbando, and my Japanese is not going to be great, obviously, which is essentially the same thing. Vaguely asexual male character who, appears in anime as well. But anyway, waifus are hugely, monstrously popular, and Grok has multiple, at least one, possibly multiple waifu characters who will engage in erotic chat with you, which is very popular with a certain demographic. And no, for the record, I'm not that one. I can't believe you guys don't know this. Are you nervous?
Such a sheltered life, Jim.
I see this stuff all over the place, but it already exists and has existed for some time. And so it's not surprising, given that there's this desire out there for, I was, channeling my inner Lucifer Morningstar.
He knows the line.
I know. Scary.
But he's never been there, I only read Playboy for the articles.
Anyway, there is obviously a market for this. Like, you can argue whether this is good or bad for society.
Don't sit, Sherlock. Yes, there is.
So, of course,
there's a market for this. Yes, half the internet.
Do you remember the song from, what was it, a Company B, or for a long time? The internet is for porn.
Company B?
No. It's a musical, not Company B there, but I'm trying to remember. The internet is for porn. There's a video called The Internet is for Porn. And the best one of these was done with World of Warcraft characters. So on YouTube, search World of Warcraft, The Internet is for Porn. It's wonderful. And the whole idea is like there's this female character who talks about the idea that, the internet is for searching for this, making a birthday card, stuff like that, and of course the other characters jump in all the time and go, the internet is for porn.
But if anybody hasn't noticed, what is it? They're called Temu, the new sort of the Chinese Amazon.
Yeah, Temu.
No matter what product they have, there's a girl in a tight t-shirt. This is, sex sells, and it always has, maybe it always will. And that's why I'm not surprised at all by this. But it's something that it's just going to happen. There's nothing you think, why would I care anyway?
Jim, I think
why would I care? It's not that I'm not alive, but I
think one of these
days, I'm going to dig myself deeper into a hole. Someone say something.
Yes, I will. I think one of these days we should add a section to one of our shows, in all seriousness, that to pick Marcel's brain on how, Marcel, I'm always in awe when I listen to you when we do these podcasts, because I sit there going, where the hell does he find all of the time to go through and learn about all of this stuff? And how the hell does he remember it all? Personally, I would be very interested to hear about it, and I think our listeners would too.
It's called ADHD. You too can have it. It's the fun.
There's truth there.
No, but he spends enough time to learn it.
So I wrote, like, when I stopped counting, I had written over 1,000 articles for various magazines, including Linux Journal, Linux Magazine, Sysadmin Magazine, like tons and tons of stuff, including a bunch of stuff that I did online. I wrote a column called Cooking with Linux for 10 years straight. Every single one was something different. I'm just fascinated by technology. I always have been. I'm a science fiction fan from forever. The idea of technology moving forward, of new things happening, is just part of who I am. The whole concept of open technologies is part of who I am. I like to think that all these things somehow being in the hands of everyone will make the world a better place. I could be totally wrong, and this could be the end of us all, but there's a part of me that idealizes this concept of power in the hands of people, power to create, to explore, to develop new ideas and so forth is a good thing, which is why I was always such a big fan of open source. It's like, you too can do this stuff. You too can contribute to the world using things like this. And what that meant for me was that I just followed every one of these things. Like you talk about the rabbit holes. I'm a rabbit. I mean, I just go in and out of rabbit holes all the time. Yeah. And my memory is, like, everyone's memory works a little bit differently. Like my wife's and actually my son's have this amazing memory of place. They can go somewhere once and then they will be able to get back there again. I use GPSs to navigate my city because I just sort of always need this little reminder of where I am or where I'm going. And for years, like in the early days of cell phones, I'd call my wife. I would be going to visit a client and I'd call her and I'd say, I'm at the intersection of this and this, and I am totally lost. Where do I go? But she has this internal map and she knows how to get places. And to me, this is like mind-boggling because I have an incredibly bad sense of direction. But I remember almost everything. I'm not talking word for word, but I remember the general concept of almost everything I've read, every book I've read. If it's music, the words are what lock it in for me. It's the story behind the song that actually anchors it in memory. And so I decided a long time ago that what I have story memory. If something is presented to me in a story format, I remember it.
We all have different ways that we organize information, but stories are powerful for the way in which we remember things, we learn things, we associate. things. When I was in university, I would always cram for exams. Why? Because I could remember everything I read, even if I read it fast for a period of time. It doesn't stay forever, but I could do that. We all have these different strengths. The neat thing is, though, you can use these tools now to augment that part that you don't have.
Yeah.
Good word, augment. Yes.
I struggle with all kinds of words and names and stuff like that. I've been totally freed because I can just click on and say, okay, you know that word, sounds like this and it was meant something like this? Oh yeah. And ChatGPT will duly return it to me.
And you can hum a song to Google.
Yep.
Like all you have to do is hum it and it will find it for you. You know, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. But I want to wrap up with the idea, because we went through we did get what we wanted to get talked about. That was really cool. And next week, Gemini will be relaunched, or at least come out. And I think there has to be something really incredible that comes out of that. I don't know what it's going to be, but...
Can I jump in with one of those incredible things?
Yep.
Okay. Remember we said operating system? We talked about the idea of it being an operating system. Look, these are mostly floating on X, I'm sorry to say, but maybe they're elsewhere as well. I should check YouTube. But there are people out there who have access to Gemini 3.0 at the moment, and they have generated entire operating systems. So people have one-shotted, they'll say, I want a Macintosh desktop OS 12 or whatever the hell it is. Generate that for me. That you can actually click and open up menu. It's got the dock at the bottom. You can open, there's even an app, a paint app that you can draw in that works. People have generated, said, I want an iPhone 8, like an iPhone 8, that you can actually navigate the icons, that create the icons. You can navigate the whole thing. They've done it with a handful of other Windows. They've recreated, somebody has recreated Windows 7 just by one shot saying, I want a Windows 7 desktop. And then the whole icons you can open up, and it comes with a dozen apps that you can actually use. We're talking, this is what's coming, Jim. This is what we're expecting next week. I haven't tried this, but look for the videos.
But does it have the bugs of Windows 7?
That I can't say. We'll have to wait until they release.
That's funny.
So why is the question? Why? I mean, this is because I've actually freed up a computer because I wanted to download Google's new operating system, which is the escape pod for those who have Windows 10 that they're offering, which is you could just download the new Google operating system and don't worry about upgrading your computer. We've already made the switch so that we use open source Office tools, or just use Google. It's free. It sits there with it, and they're just as good as anything. I freed up an old computer that we have, so I'm actually going to turn an old Mac into a Google operating system. But that's why I'm wondering why that would be the big thing that they would be doing.
The point is not that they are doing that. The point is that somebody was trying to push the limits one shot. Vibe coding.
So this
in Gemini 3.0.
This would be the new big thing in vibe coding.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's not that Google came out and said, we need to be able to recreate these desktops. Is that somebody wanted to see just how far can I push this?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it is. I don't believe for a moment that this is Google's intention, okay, to recreate these old operating systems. That's not what they're doing. That somebody just said, I wonder if I can tell it to vibe code this thing to go off and create this thing. And that's kind of what it did. So we'll have to wait and see, but check for the videos. I'll check for the videos. I'll check for a video on YouTube. I did see the videos, so I know they exist because I've seen them, but I'll see if I can paste them after we finish the show here. I'll go looking for it, and then maybe you can include it in the show notes.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to see we will do a show on what they're working on for sure, because I think it has to be incredible. The thing that just drives me crazy again, Apple in the background. Did you see, who's it, the last CEO? Was that Robert Scully? Is that the name of the last?
Yeah, Scully was there. I don't remember what his role was, whether he was, yes, it was.
I think it was the old CEO.
Yeah,
anyway, he was being interviewed and basically admitted that Apple had lost its way.
Yeah.
And that was, so they really have to watch what Google comes up with, because Altman's charging ahead with being an operating system. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you watch the other ones, you take a look at Claude and with Anthropic. Claude has now issued a new thing where you can now put really what amounts to applications in memory. So you don't have to replicate everything. It has little folders that it will store that will do things like spreadsheets or whatever. You could just call them. So that's come through OpenAI, that's come through Claude. Google's going to have obviously their way in which they can generate code or whatever. I was looking at this and saying, in a world of ERPs, why, I think we might be pursuing, software might be dying, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, why would you have...
Or software might just be so personalized that it's as ubiquitous as operating systems are now. I mean,
Things are going to look completely different. I don't know.
That's the only thing that we can possibly say at the moment.
I wouldn't say 6 months from now, but I would say 1 to 3 years from now, things are going to look dramatically different than what they do now.
But it was Scully that said it. The app is dead. And Apple made its name on the app. It was the house for the apps. There's an app for that. You can get this with a swipe on your phone.
Yep.
And if that breaks, the idea of an app, why would I have an app when I could just ask the AI to do this thing?
Yeah.
And if it really needs to pull some structure to do that, it can go get it. And that was the last barrier, right? Well, I'm not going to ask AI to do this because it'll hallucinate. And that was the breakthrough with Claude and even with some of the stuff that I think is in the background for OpenAI. And that is, I'll just call this routine. A thing called a spreadsheet, I got one of them. I took that code part and assembled it. So if you need an algorithm that does this instead of me doing it as an AI, I'll go do that. And I think that goes back to the days of Wolfram Alpha, where you could find these routines that you could get. So why would we may be moving into an appless future, which is kind of interesting. Because these guys got to do something. They got bills to pay. No, but it's true. I was looking at it because there's all this stuff about the bubble.
We may be moving into a future where money means nothing.
Well, that's going to be kind of interesting, though, when you owe all this money. Because
everybody owes everybody. So who actually does we really should wrap, because this is the beginning of another conversation. But there's this joke about the fact that the world's combined economies owe something like, I'm just making the number up here, but $250 trillion, okay? Like that we all owe collectively. To who? Because everybody is in debt. Exactly. But if we're all in debt, then everyone's in debt, which means that there's only debt. There is there's no plus anywhere, right? It's just a giant world of debt.
Yeah. Well, that's how money is created.
Isn't that a good place to wrap? A whole world of debt?
Yeah. So you don't feel bad about it. No, the idea of in business, you take the idea of once they got off the gold standard, a bank gives you a loan.
Yeah. That
creates money. And you're right. So if you're in debt out there, you're doing your job.
Job well done.
Way to go out there and create more debt. There'll be stories about the bubble we'll do this week, and maybe we'll come back to it. But it is the big thing that everybody's talking about. It has the bubble's going to burst, but it won't burst in the next week. So don't worry about it, because it's going to take a little while more than that. I don't know how long, but it's going to take more time than that, because these guys have got this whole thing propped up pretty. They can't.
It's going to take money, a whole lot of. Sorry.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
And that's our show. Really love to hear from you as to what your thoughts are on these topics. Are we hitting the mark with this show? We enjoy it. We hope you do too. But get in touch with us at technewsday.com or technewsday.ca. Take your pick. Just go to the Contact Us tab, drop me a note. If you're watching this on YouTube, just put a note under the video. I read each and every one. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a wonderful weekend.